I'm coming out of Jonah 1. It's going to be verses 1 through 17. Always reading out of the NLT. And this is, it says, Jonah runs from the Lord. So verse 1, the Lord gave this message to Jonah, son of Amittai. Get up and go to the great city of Nineveh. Announce my judgment against it, because I have seen how wicked its people are. But Jonah got up and went into the opposite direction to get away from the Lord. He went down to the port of Joppa, where he found a ship leaving for Tarshish. He bought a ticket and went on board, hoping to escape from the Lord by sailing to Tarshish. But the Lord hurled a powerful wind over the sea, causing a violent storm that threatened to break the ship apart. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods for help and threw the cargo overboard to lighten the ship. But all this time, Jonah was sound asleep down in the hold, so the captain went down after him. How can you sleep at a time like this? He shouted. Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he will pay attention to us and spare us our lives. Then the crew cast lots to see which of them had offended the gods and caused the terrible storm. So when they did this, the lots identified Jonah as the culprit. Why has this awful storm come down on us? They demanded. Who are you? What is your line of work? What country are you from? What is your nationality? Jonah answered, I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land. The sailors were terrified when they heard this, for he had already told them he was running away from the Lord. Oh, why did you do it? They groaned. And since the storm was getting worse all the time, they asked him, what should we do to stop this storm? What should we do to you to stop this storm? Throw me into the sea, Jonah said, and it will become calm again. I know that this terrible storm is all my fault. Instead, the sailors rowed even harder to get the ship to the land. But the stormy sea was too violent for them, and they couldn't make it. Then they cried out to the Lord, Jonah's God. Oh Lord, they pleaded, don't make us die for this man's sin, and don't hold us responsible for his death. Oh Lord, you have sent this storm upon him for your own good reasons. Then the sailors picked Jonah up and threw him into the raging sea, and the storm stopped at once. The sailors were awestruck by the Lord's great anger, by the Lord's great power, and they offered him a sacrifice and vowed to serve him. Now the Lord had arranged for a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was inside the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Now that's the only part I know about Jonah. You know, like he was swallowed by the fish because he disobeyed God, and then I didn't know the in-betweens. I didn't know the dash between his time of boarding the boat and getting swallowed by the fish. So, if I would have to title this message, if you're taking notes, I would title it High Risk. I would title it High Risk. So, we see in the text that Jonah is about to board a ship, and the ship that he is about to aboard has the potential to pull him away from God. Now we see that he is trying to get away from God by being disobedient to what God is telling him to do. You know, like, who do you think you are? When God tells you to do something, you do it. Like I'm confused. Why are you running away? Like there's an amount of distance that you can go to hide from God or to run from him. You know, so my question is for the night, if you're taking notes, is why are we disobedient when we hear God tell us to do something and we try to escape from him? And then number 2 is, what ship are you about to aboard to take you on a journey that will pull you farther away from God? What ship are you about to aboard to take you on a journey that will pull you farther away from God? Now, that ship that you may be going to get on, you know, that you're all in for, and the one you bought the ticket for, and you've made it official, and that's your boo, you're his boo. I'm talking about a relationship right now. So that relationship will lead you into a storm, and you will be delivered into the mouth of something you had no business being in. So the storm is caused by your disobedience. The crazy thing about this storm is that you're the cause, or the person that you're in the storm with is the cause. So you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as your situation or somebody's situation being projected on you. Whoever, if that person is in the relationship with you or you're in the relationship with that person, but I'm speaking on abroad. So you're the culprit. You're the cause of the storm. Jonah was the cause of the storm. He got on somebody's ship. He got into relationship with somebody, and he was the cause of the storm. So you will have led someone to be saved in the process. So that was okay, so number one is you're the cause and you're the culprit. That's the crazy thing about the storm. And number two is that you will have led someone to be saved in the process. In your disobedience, someone will be saved, but you will be in the hands of someone else to be tossed overboard. That you'll be thrown away. You'll be tossed about. That relationship that you're in is not worth the storm that you have to face. That's what I'm here to encourage you. That whatever storm that you're in, whatever relationship that you're in, the storm that you will have to endure is not worth it. The storm you've been facing, you may not understand why, but it's because you're the reason for the storm. You were hoping to escape from the instructions God gave you, but there's no distance that you can go to hide from God. You were hoping to escape your reality. You were hoping to not deal with what God is asking you to do, but there's too many things in the way of what you want and what God is asking you to do. So there may be fear in your way. There may be doubt in your way. There may be heartbreak in your way. That's why you're being disobedient to what God is telling you to do. It's like you can be obedient, but there's fear standing in your way. And then there's doubt standing in your way. And then there's heartbreak maybe standing in your way. So you can't carry on the instructions that the Lord gave you because of these things that may be standing in your way. We can't hide from God. God caused this particular storm in your life to get violent. See, when Jonah got on the boat, the storm became violent. It was too much to handle. So it's not going to be like your last storm. This particular storm that you may be getting in or you got yourself in, it's not like the last storm. This is a new storm. It's violent, but it's God's way of trying to break that situation apart. He no longer needs you to be on that ship. That's why he said that he sent the storm. He sent something that was so violent to break the ship apart, to snap the ship in half. The relationship that you're in, he needs to break it apart. That relationship ain't for you. That mentorship is not helping you. That friendship is draining you. You got to start to see what you don't need on your ship, and you got to start to throw the things overboard that is weighing your ship down. You got to start throwing things overboard. So the sea is what kind of stood out to me. The sea is what's being used to cause the storm. It's not the ship, which means it's not the ship causing the storm. It's not you, or it's not your relationship or your friendship that's causing the storm. It's the sea. The sea is what's being used to hold the ship up. The sea is the foundation. The foundation that the ship is on is the sea. The foundation that the ship is on is being threatened to break the ship apart. God is trying to throw something at your situation to cause the ship to break. He said, but the Lord hurled a powerful wind over the sea. That's like he threw something at it. He's throwing this at your situation. He's throwing this storm to you. He's throwing this situation to you to cause the ship to break. Whatever your relationship is, whatever your friendship is, whatever kind of ship that you are in, he's causing it to have a shipwreck. He's causing it to break. Your foundation, which is the sea, the foundation that your ship is on, which is the sea. That's why he's using the sea. It's not the ship, if you understand what I mean. It's your foundation. Your foundation is God, and you can't run from it. You can't hide from him. You can't neglect him. So, see, you had a relationship with God before before the relationship with that man. You had a relationship with God before you had a relationship with that friend. Before you had a relationship with your mother or father. Before you had a relationship with whoever it may be. You had a relationship with God first. You had a relationship with maybe the friend or the boss, and you may not understand that God is a jealous God, but he is. So the ship that you're on right now is not a good ship. He's telling me, and I hear him saying that it's not a good ship that you're on. So God has to threaten to break the ship apart, not to hurt you, but to get you to be obedient. Because it's standing in the way of the ship that you're on and your relationship with God. The relationship that you're on is standing in the way of you having that fulfillment that God wants to give you. It's standing in the way. You can't see yourself breaking past the relationship. You can't see yourself getting to the relationship that you want with God because of what you're keeping in the way of it. God is only going to enter at his own risk. You're only going to allow God to enter at his own risk. Like, God is not going to force his way on you. He's not going to have the relationship with you if you don't want him to have the relationship with you. He's not going to go over the boundaries that you set for him. If you said, God, I only want you here, then he's only going to be there. You have to invite him into your relationship. You have to invite him on your ship. You have to invite him on your situation, in your situation. But it's like in your disobedience, it will cause others to be in a situation they don't belong in, and neither do you. Jonah got on that ship, but he caused the storm for somebody else. They never would have been in that storm if it wasn't for Jonah. That relationship that you're in, they would never be in that relationship if it wasn't for you. That relationship that you're in, you would never be in that relationship if it wasn't for them. Maybe it was the things that they said. Maybe it was the things that they did. Maybe it was the thing that you said, the things that you did to cause you into this relationship, but you were never meant to be in it if the storm has come. They were never meant to be in it if the storm has come. But it's like I hear God saying that he's been telling you so many times. And this is the time that he told you to go and do something and you became disobedient. So I'm here to be a vessel for God to tell you that in your disobedience, you would have never had to go through that storm, but you're going through it because you have been disobedient to what he's asked you to do. That person was never meant to go through that, but it was because of you. You were never meant to go through that, but it was because of them. So God is telling me to tell you that you never had to be in that, but since you're in it, right? But since you're in it. So in order to stop that storm that you may be in, someone's going to have to be let go. Right? Like that ship that you may be in, you're going to have to let it go. You can't let someone cause a storm for you have no business being in. You can't cause a storm for somebody that they got no business being in. The storm is only going to get worse until you let it go. First, you're going to have to pray in your storm. They went to go pray. They said, pray to your God. You're going to have to pray in your storm so God can hear you and you can hear from God. And then you're going to have to make plans to let it go. They started throwing some things overboard. You're going to have to start making plans to let some things go. Let that friendship go that's draining you. Let that relationship go that's draining you. Like we talked about last week, some people just take, and we just give, or we can be the ones who take, and they can be the ones who give. But whatever is draining you, whatever kind of relationship that you're in that is draining you, you're going to have to start to let it go. Even if you say, no, I'm going to keep selling, because that's what they did. They said, how can we stop this storm, Jonah? Like, what can we do to you to stop this storm? And he was like, well, you're just going to have to let me go overboard. And they like, let me just keep sailing. And God is like, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You're going to keep sailing, but you think that it's supposed to work. And it's like you saying, I think we're supposed to be together. I thought we're meant to be together. They were supposed to go to the land. So it's like, I know we're supposed to land this relationship. I know we're supposed to be together. I know that's the man for me. I know that's the woman for me. I know that's the friend for me. I know, but it's like, but the fact is a storm that God sends to shake some things up is not going to make it. He's going to send the storm, and once it starts shaking some things up, the storm, you're not going to make it in the storm. You know, it's too hard. It's too violent. It's too much work. Don't you feel that when the storm is coming? It's like you don't even know which way to turn because it's so much work, and you've tried that route and you tried that route and you tried selling and you tried holding on and you've tried so many things to keep the relationship to work. But God said, I'm sending a storm that's too violent that you won't be able to make it through. So you got to start throwing some things overboard that you shouldn't have kept in the first place. But in order to have kept the relationship afloat, you're going to have to let go of your possessions in order to save something that was never going to make it in the first place. You got to let some things go. Throw them overboard. You know, and in the midst of that, you never knew that by you letting something go, the ones you were in the ship with would have been saved all along. You were in that relationship to be an example. You were in that friendship to be an example. You were in that friendship, that mentorship, that relationship to be the light for that person. They were in it to be the light for you. But if you can just see that if you let it go, I don't even know who I'm talking to or why the prophetic message came, but if you let the relationship go, that person will be saved, and so will you in the end. So will you. That the storm is not meant to take you out. The storm is just meant because you're disobedient. The storm is meant to keep putting pressure on you. The storm is meant to keep putting pressure on you. I mean, that's the only thing I can even come up with. It's meant to keep putting pressure on you so you'll let the relationship go. You will let the person that you're in the relationship with go, or they will have to let you go. You're supposed to be the example. You know, don't overstay your welcome is what, when I was studying, I heard God saying, don't overstay your welcome. Don't overstay your welcome. Don't overstay your welcome, and don't let anyone overstay theirs. We're only meant to be in our ships for a certain amount of time. Every ship is not going to last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 1 year. They're not meant to last. They're only meant to last for a certain amount of time. And when God tells you to leave the ship or let someone go of the ship that you're in, you have to let it go. Even though it seems like you just got to work harder and endure all these things coming at you, and eventually you will be okay. Like, if I can just have the children, the relationship is gonna last. If I can just get married and get the ring, the relationship is gonna work. If I can just say sorry, if I can just apologize, the relationship is gonna work. But God is really saying, no, it was never gonna work. I just needed you to be an example. You can't not endure the things that you're not supposed to endure. Relationships don't always last. You have to know when to let somebody go and when to bring somebody in. Eventually, you'll be okay, though. Eventually, when you let that person go, you'll be okay. And eventually, when they let you go, that you'll be okay. But you're not going to make it. God is telling me you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. The way that you've been sailing, you're not going to make it. You were only meant to be there for a certain amount of time. You were only meant to be there until they knew who the God is that you serve and whose name that you serve. Like they said, pray to your God, Jonah. They already was serving some other gods, because when they was going to basically like roll the dice to see who the culprit was, they had a God and Jonah had a God. But it's just like, I need you to pray to your God. So the fact is, it's like when they started asking him, who are you? Who do you serve? Pretty much, what's your name? Where are you from? He said, oh, I serve the Lord, the God of the heavens and the sea. So soon as Jonah announced who his God is, or who his God was, or whatever the case is, it's like then they knew, then Jonah was the example. And at that point, it's like, okay, now you got to let it go. They need to see who God is in your life. Like, God is not the man. Like, it's not this man. God is God, and the man is the man. Your friend is not God. Your relationships is not God. God is God, and you got to let him be God, and you got to let you be you. And you got to let the relationships be. You know what I mean? So if you don't let them go, they won't have a chance to see how powerful God is in your situation. They was able to see how powerful God was in the situation when they threw Jonah overboard. They were able to see, but if you don't let them go, it's just like you gave them God. You encouraged them. You said, read the word. You said, read the scriptures. You told them, this is God. This is the God that I serve. He can work your situation out for good. He got plans to prosper you. He got plans for your future. You know that all things work together for the good of those who love him. And that's what you said to the person in your relationship. But the example is, I'm going to have to back up. The example is, I can't be in this relationship, but you're not being an example. You're not being an example for me when you're in this relationship doing the same things that I'm doing. You're not being an example. The example is, I'm going to let you go so you can have that relationship with God, because you had your own God. And now you're going to serve my God when I let you go, or when you let me go. You're going to serve my God. And our God is powerful. They're going to be able to see how powerful God is in the situation when you let them go. They're going to have a chance to see how powerful God is. So in our restoration, as we were talking about last week, we're being restored. We need to rest and reevaluate our relationships. We need to rest and reevaluate our relationships. Who's supposed to be on your ship with you? What's some things that you gonna let go? What's some things that you gonna throw overboard? What's some things that you don't need? Are you gonna be obedient to God when he asks you to do something? When he's telling you to get out of this relationship? When he's telling you to let it go? When he's saying that they were never supposed to be in this storm with you? You were never supposed to be in that storm with them. Are you gonna let it go? Are you gonna be tossed overboard? Are you gonna allow them to let you go? Are you gonna let them go? Whatever your relationship is that God is prophetically telling me to tell you, whatever that relationship is, you got to let it go. But will you be obedient to do it? You got to be obedient, because it's not going to work. You can try everything. You can read the books. You can send the emojis. You can send the text. You can send the phone calls. Y'all can be on the phone for hours. Y'all can meet up. Y'all can have brunch. Y'all can have dinner dates. But God is saying the more you keep selling is the less time that they have to see me do my work. The less time that they have to see me be powerful. You're standing in the way. They're standing in the way of you. You gotta see how God is powerful in your relationship. You gotta trust him. You gotta see what he can do. He can bring that relationship back together. But if you step out the way and throw some things overboard, you never know what he's gonna give back to you. You never know, but you gotta trust him in the situation. Jonah said, you know what? He didn't know if he was gonna die. He didn't know the fish was coming to swallow him up. He didn't know, but he said, you know what you gotta do? You got to throw me overboard, because I'm the cause of this storm. So if you know that you're the cause of the storm in the relationship that you're in, you got to let it go, and you got to tell the person that you about to let it go, because God is big in your relationship. God is big to you. God is strong to you. God is powerful to you. You got to let some things go. You cannot allow that relationship to be God. You got to let God be God. The only reason why they're in the relationship, or that you are in the relationship that you're in, is because of what you said, because of what you told them, because you bought the ticket. You paid the price. You paid the price to be in this relationship, so you let them talk to you however you wanted to. And you paid the price to be in this relationship, so you let them run all over you. And you let them treat you like dirt, and you let them treat you like scum, and you let them not lift you up and encourage you, and then you didn't let them build you up. That's why you paid the price, you paid the ticket. But someone who's paid the ultimate price for you, his name is Jesus. And he came to pay the price for you, so you ain't got to be held captive in that relationship that you ain't supposed to be in. And in that storm that you're not supposed to be in, that you caused, or that somebody else caused for you, you were never supposed to be in. But God said you ain't got to be bound anymore. Let it go, because it's not going to work. Let it go, because it's not going to work. Don't get into the relationship and then start to ask the questions. Jonah got on the boat and then they said, who are you? What's your nationality? Where did you come from? Who are you? Who do you serve? These are questions before entering the relationship. These are just some key points. You ask questions before you get in that relationship. Are you humble? You ask questions because you need somebody humble in your relationship. You ask questions. Are you nice? Are you at peace? Are you telling people about God? Do you got a relationship with God? Do I see the light in this person? You ask questions before you get on the ship. Don't ask them in the ship because you're already in the storm. Don't try to switch some things up. You're in the storm already. You caused it. They caused it. So it's like, don't start to ask questions then. Ask questions before. Any relationship that you get in, ask questions before you get in it. You can live a calm life once you start to let things go that you no longer need. They said that the storm was calm immediately. Soon as they let Jonah go, the storm was calm. You can have a calm life if that's what you want. You can continue to be in the storm if that's what you want. You can let somebody else cause the storm for you if that's what you want. But I'm here to tell you, God said it's not going to work. But if you just let it go, that your life will be much calmer. You don't got to argue the way you're not supposed to argue, the way you don't need to argue. You don't have to, you don't have to, what is that? Go back and forth about things. You don't have to, dim your light down. You don't got to feel less than for anybody. That you are the queen of God. You're the queen of a king. You're the princess of a king. That you don't have to do anything that he's not telling you to do. That you're the righteousness of God. That he has called you by name. That he has chosen you. That you don't have to be less than to anybody because God called you. You got to start to agree with what God said about you, like we talked about last week. You got to start to agree. Once you start to agree, you don't let things fly. You don't let them call you out of your name. God gave you a name. He gave it to your mother and your father to give to you, and that's the name you're going to call me. I'm not going to be called B's, and I'm not going to be called N's or whatever the case is. You're going to call me by the name that was given to me, and anything outside of that, you're not calling me by my name. You don't have to be less than, because God made you more than. You are a powerful queen. You are powerful. God gave you strength. He said that in your trap, that he will rescue you, that you don't have to deal with this storm. Just let it go. You can just remove the things by pushing them out of, you can't just remove the things by pushing them out of the way. They didn't just push Jonah out the way. They had to pick it up and throw him out. You got to pick up whatever's in your relationship and start to throw them things overboard. Pick them up and throw them overboard. Throw it over, throw it over, throw it over. Throw your relationship over. Say, I can't deal with this no more. I know what God said about me. I can't deal with this no more. I'm not about to just take anything from anybody. I know what God said about me and I'm about to start to agree. If you didn't agree yesterday, you about to start to agree tonight. Like God said certain things about you. He made you promises that no man can make you. He made you promises that your family can't make you. He made you promises that you can't make you. Because he said his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than our ways. That you have to lean on his understanding and not your own. So if you don't understand this relationship that you own, you better get to falling on your knees and you better get to praying. Because he's telling you that the storm that you're in is not gonna work. Stop trying to make it work. Stop trying to sell faster. Stop trying to do things to make it work. You got to pick that thing up and you got to throw it overboard. Throw it over. Don't push it out the way. I'll get to it later. I'll get to it tomorrow. Don't push it out your way. Throw it over. Cut the ties. Cut the text message. Cut the calls. Cut the emails. Whatever you got to do, throw it overboard. Don't get into a relationship that you haven't asked the questions about. It's high risk. It's high risk. When you start to be disobedient to God, you're at high risk. You're at high risk getting yourself into things that you got no business. And you're putting somebody else at high risk. You're meant to be the example. You're meant to be the example. Tell that person about God. If it's supposed to be, you pray on it. if it's supposed to be. Don't let somebody cause a storm for you that you got no business being in, and you don't go around causing storms for somebody else. Everybody that you dipping and dabbling with, that means when you in different relationships and you with this guy and this guy and this guy, you're causing them storms that they ain't never had no business being in. Don't let somebody cause a storm for you and you don't cause a storm for them, because you're going to be at high risk. High risk. You know, and that was the word for tonight, high risk. You know, I believe it was a prophetic word for whoever needed to hear it, even when, you know, we go ahead and post it on the YouTube and things, like whoever's going to hear it, I believe it was a prophetic word that you got to let the relationship go, but you got to trust God in the process. You don't know what's going to happen when you're tossed overboard and where that person is tossed overboard. You don't know what's going to happen, but you got to let God be God. And when you say, you know what, I trust you in my relationship, I want you in my relationship, that means I trust you with whatever you want to do. If you say leave, I got to go. If you say text, I got to text. If you say, I'll do. If God, you say, I'll deliver. Don't stay in things that you got no business staying in. It's okay. You ain't got to harshly get rid of a person. You get rid of a person out of love, you know, like we'll pray and we'll let it go. You know, it's up to you of however you want to get rid of it. But I'm telling you, you got to get rid of it now. If you haven't prayed about it, pray about the relationships in your circle. Pray about who's coming in and out of your life, because you don't know what they're doing on the other side. And you don't know why God is sending the storm. Like, they can be, you know, they can be so not good for you to where, you know, they're going to gossip over here, they're going to gossip over there, they're going to tell your secrets, it can be so many things. We don't know God's plans, but we know when he tells us to do something that we got to do it, because we don't know what's on the other side of what he's asking us to do. He gave Jonah a command. He told Jonah to do something else. Jonah tried to run away from God. Don't try to run away from God. You can't go anywhere. You can't hide. You can't duck. You can't neglect him. You can't go anywhere that God doesn't want you to go or God doesn't allow you to go. So if you get yourself in something, the only way to get out of it, if you're in this ship, the only way to get out of it is to let some things overboard.